I started a brand new account 2 or 3 days ago, and I was free to play for the first 48 hours or so, and I've spent since then $22. Again, trying to get a very good idea of the tips and tricks and things you should know as a free to play, low spending new player. So stay tuned. I'm going to cover 5 things that you don't want to miss out on so you can have the best experience possible in Rise to War and your new seasons. Those tips are coming up in just 1 second. All right, tip or thing that you should know, number 1, is that the ring level, this level right here, is going to be your biggest bottleneck you're waiting on. Your ring level goes up based on the power per hour you have, which is based on the tiles you have. So the more tiles you have, the more powerful tiles you have, the more power per hour you have. So if you go to your chapter book over here, which you should all be following to get through all the kind of early game stuff, the bottleneck here is going to hit on several chapters where the last one you have is just to upgrade your ring level. So a way to help with this is make sure you're not dropping tiles until you have the stamina to take them. Don't go through again. I don't even have max tiles right now because I'm low on stamina and I keep leveling up faster than I can keep up with my commanders. But hypothetically, if I had 106 out of 106 tiles, I could look at my commander, Faramir, and say, okay, he's got 96 stamina right here. That means he can take almost 5 tiles. We'll round up and say he can take 5 tiles. If I was capped out at 106, I should not drop more than 5, maybe 6 tiles, because those are the ones I can replace. So even though I can take way higher than 15s now, there's no reason to drop them because they are adding together. And it's not, one tile doesn't seem like a lot, but if you have a bunch of them, they do add up, and it's just going to help you get to that place faster. So again, I'm sitting here at 23, but it's taken away pretty fast. So I'll get on a little bit later and probably be at 24, 25 without thinking about it, which is good. But if you keep dropping tiles too fast or not filling up on your tiles, you will just be stuck for way longer than you should be on those chapters. So don't do that. Fill up on tiles and don't drop more tiles than you should. The next tip is about expansions in fellowships. Again, if you go to the fellowship tab, which is right here at the bottom, the little flags, you should be joining a fellowship. So bonus tip, join a fellowship first, go into your faction and just look through the fellowship list and pick one that's in your language that has the most people in it. For your first season, that's a very good place to start, and you can kind of learn more about what you want to do or what groups. For now, just get in a fellowship and click on the boost page. Once you're in the boost page, you want to click on the square that is not unlocked, the furthest one you guys have. So this one for me on level 9 is Fortress Construction, and click the donate button as often as you can. It's a little bit blocked by me right here, but you can see every person is going to have a donation attempt limit. So right now I'm at 0 out of 20 that I can do. So this is not something whales can come in and just use a bunch of gold to level up fellowships. It takes a lot of people to get it done. So as soon as you can, get in there and donate every moment you can. The big ones, member expansion 1 and 2, actually allow you to have more members in your fellowship. So these are the really big ones that you want to get done right away. Get more people in, get it upgrading even faster, and seriously, your fellowship mates will thank you, and you'll be in a more active and powerful group, because at the end of the day, this is a team game. It's not about how individually powerful you are. It is about how powerful, how coordinated, how active your team is. So help be a part of making that happen in your fellowship, and you might find yourself contesting for the One Ring at the end of the season. Now, next up, when you start a brand new season, you will have some buffs. They'll be listed right around here below your resource income. There'll be a little circle right here. If you click on it, it'll show you your beginning of season buffs. Now, the big thing here is in the first 24 hours, you expend 50% less stamina. So right now, if I'm going to march Faramir anywhere, it's 20 stamina. In the first 24 hours, it's 10. So you can cover ground twice as fast. You can take twice as many tiles. So as you can imagine, that would be pretty impactful in your early game to get things done. So if you're going to start a new account, make sure you have at least some time throughout the 24-hour period to be on and actually use your stamina and do things. Don't start, play for 20 minutes, and then not play for 26 hours. You'll have really set yourself back. Now, it's not the end of the world, so don't freak out if you did that, because you will catch up in the late game. It won't make a big difference. But whenever PvP starts in this server, I don't know who it's going to be with. I don't know what's going to happen. Whenever it starts, I'd much rather have been more efficient with my time. And so whenever we start fighting, I can get some good trades, as opposed to me being a bit behind to where I'm not able to contribute and help out when the team really is going to start needing people. So don't be the guy who's kind of behind the ball. Be the one who's there on the front lines ready to go, who is efficient. And your team, again, it's a team game. They're going to thank you. So make sure you take advantage of the first 24 hours. Now, with this game being a team game, it's still the most important aspect of the game. It's still important for you to also have good commanders yourself and think about who you're investing in terms of commanders. So depending on the factions you start, I'll put it on the screen right here. Depending on where you start, you're going to get these commanders on the screen. And you want to make sure you understand the commanders you're going to get before you go in, because there are some pretty major differences. Now, again, is it the end of the world? No. If you're going to spend a little bit especially, it really won't matter. But if you're a complete free-to-play player, it might be beneficial for your first season to start somewhere that's going to give you commanders you can use for 10 seasons, as opposed to commanders you're going to use in this one season and then drop. Because if you invest anything in them, if you give them any respect items or build specific gear for them, it's kind of wasted. So factions like Gondor and Erebor, for example, that give you Dwalin and Faramir are my favorites, because Dwalin and Faramir I think have very good long-term viability as compared to like Eowyn and Haldir, who are not bad, and it definitely depends on if you're playing non-role play or role play, which is a whole nother can of worms we want to get into. But again, they're not bad, but they may not have as long-term a viability as Dwalin or Faramir, for example. So again, when you're going in, be aware of that. Where you choose does dictate who you get. So if you are playing by yourself and you're just going to join whatever group, it might be worth picking a faction that has commanders you want to start with. Now, on the evil side, I would go with either Rune or Mordor, although Mordor is usually more active, but it's definitely anything can happen. But in Mordor and Rune, you get Gorbag and Khaldun, which are much better than anything you get in Angmar. You can't even play as Isengard anymore. So I would stick over here on the right side if you're evil. But at the end of the day, it is a team game, so it's not the end of the world. If you just want to play and you know people going somewhere, just join your friends. But if you're going in by yourself, it might be nice to start somewhere that's going to have commanders you're going to use for seasons to come. And the last tip or thing I think you should do is save all of your purple gear, all of your gold gear until you really understand what you're doing. Maybe that's going to be half a season. Maybe it'll be after one full season. But there is nothing wrong with running fully strengthened blue gear to start out with. Things like the broad axe is really good on anybody using melee troops. Again, there are lots of different options here. You want to look for things like the Haradrim bow if you're using a ranged commander who's going to increase the army attack and have the range might ability. Stuff like that strengthened up is just fine starting out, and it will prevent you from making gear mistakes that you regret for seasons to come. Now, on the purple gear level, it's probably not as big of a deal, but if you're free to play, you're going to be using purple gear for a long time. I've spent way more money than I'll care to admit on my main account I've played since the game's release, and I still use purple gear on a lot of my commanders. So instead of me taking my purple gear and deciding to strengthen it into, let's say, this Carver or the Mirkwood bow or whatever it is, I'm going to wait until I have a little bit more, until we get closer to the end of the season, and then I'll see how many duplicates I have and which items will be able to be refined the most, because refinement really is important in this game for gear pieces, because I could strengthen up the Carver and never pull another one. That's how RNG works. I could also get a bunch. You never know. Maybe I actually end up getting a lot more of the Mirkwood bows and I get the effect that I want, and so I'll actually go into that because I can refine it up a few times as opposed to using something else that won't be able to be refined. So just be patient with your gear. I think that makes the most sense. Again, as a low spender, free to play, whatever it is, it definitely can be something that going in your second season, you might have a really good set of starting purple gear because you were patient, as opposed to just as you keep getting it, you're strengthening it into things before you understand kind of how the gear system works in the game. I'll also link some videos on the top right of the screen. So if you want to look at some tier lists for purple and gold gear, you can do that to get an idea of which gear pieces are really safe to invest in. But again, if you're a big spender, it's not going to be applicable to you. You'll probably just have things and get things as much as you want. But a lot of people are trying to be very efficient. So gear patience would be the final point here I'd like to make in the video. And that is going to do it for our tips, tricks, or just things you should know as a new player, as a free-to-play player, or as a low spender. These things were things that I was surprised by when I jumped back in. And as I was playing, I literally have a notepad right here in front of me where I have been just, as we've been playing or streaming, writing down, okay, here's the bottleneck, or hey, here's this thing that's very important in this new season 1 structure. So hopefully you found these tips helpful. Again, if you want to see more videos like this about early game, about new player experiences, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on those. But that'll do it for me in this one, and I'll see you all in a future video.